Thanks for joining me. There were terrible scenes on our televisions last night from Kabul. They were heartbreaking scenes indeed, and many Australians would have found it extremely difficult. My thoughts particularly with the families of the 41 defence personnel who gave their lives serving Australia in Afghanistan. Their families will be doing it really tough. My thoughts are also with all of our veterans and their families at this difficult time. I've encouraged the government to give whatever support is needed to reach out to our veterans communities through their organisations to make sure that they're given every support that's required. It is also, of course, a difficult time for the Australian Afghan community, many of whom, of course, have loved ones back in their original homeland. Australia has a moral obligation to assist those who helped us, but it's more than a moral obligation. It's a matter of our national security. It's absolutely vital that Australia send a message to the world that when others help us, we will help them in return. We will stand by them in their time of need. And I have encouraged the government to do whatever it can to bring these people who assisted us to Australia. We've been calling for this for many months now, and it's unfortunate that now we find ourselves in this situation. My thoughts particularly for those people who provided assistance away from Kabul, in Tarin Kowt, in the Morrison province. We need to make sure that they're given support as well. And my concern is that for those who aren't in Kabul, how do we get them there in order to provide support for them at this difficult time? We need also to recognise, I note the Foreign Minister's comments this morning on the AM program regarding temporary protection visa holders. This isn't going to be resolved in their lifetime. The idea that there's something temporary about people, particularly the Hazara community and others, that at some stage they'll be going back to Afghanistan is just not real. And we need to give them the certainty of Australian citizenship on a permanent basis rather than some pretense that somehow their circumstances are temporary. They are not, and they need to be given that security. Can I also say that, give a message regarding COVID? With half the country in lockdown, we're now at a circumstance whereby more than half of those above the age of 16 still remain unvaccinated, and around about a quarter, a bit over a quarter, have received 2 doses. We need to do much better to get those rates up. We do need to open up, but we need to, while the current restrictions are there, obey the rules, stay safe, look after each other in the interests of people's health, but in the interests of keeping each other safe as well. And I pay tribute to those people who are doing it tough at the moment. I think there is something, though, that as Scott Morrison approaches 3 years next week since he's been Prime Minister, and in a government that's been in office for more than 10 years. I remember a time, regardless of which party was in office, when governments got things done. One of the things that's characterised this government is it's always too little, too late. Whether it's the calling of royal commissions, whether it's a response to bushfires, whether it be the rollout of the vaccine, quarantines, and now Afghanistan. Scott Morrison is characterised by always responding too little, too late. He waits until there's an absolute crisis before he acknowledges there's an issue and then blames someone else. The fact is that this government needs to accept responsibility for its actions. It needs to be much more proactive in getting things done. and governing in the interests of the country.